Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode. My name is Sarah, and I'm Elina. Today, we're going to speak about a very important and foundational topic, which is self-love and the relationship that we must have with ourselves. We're also going to dive into expectations that we put upon ourselves, as those really contribute to losing that harmonious relationship that we have in life with ourselves and with others. We're also going to see how to deal with the expectations that others might place onto us, which then ripples down into perfectionism, maybe negative thinking, maybe being too harsh with ourselves and having very high expectations. I'm so excited that we're having this conversation because I think that from self-love, every growth journey, every healing journey starts. And I have seen that when you have that pillar in place, when you realize that it's important to cultivate a relationship with yourself, and it's not something that is given for granted, then you can really make a shift in all other areas of life. I see it like a bit of the center of this beautiful sun that then touches all the other aspects of our professional career, our relationship with others, even our fitness, our health, our looks depend on how much do we truly, genuinely love ourselves. It's so easy to say, I want to lose weight. I want to go more to the gym. I want to be more successful in my career. I want to have more friends and look out there for the things that you can do more, you can do better. But it's actually not so intuitive in this modern society to look at the root of all those behaviors. Well, it's you. It's you who needs to be showing up differently on your job, or maybe that needs to take care of what you're eating more. It's you that needs to schedule that time in your planner to then go and exercise if you want to have a fit and a healthy body. So instead of really focusing on what am I eating, what foods should I cut, what promotion is next in line, what competition do I need to be better than, it's a great way to just have a better, a healthier, more beautiful life, to look at the relationship that we have with ourselves. And I say this knowing the relationship I have with myself, not perfect. And I have a clear direction where I want it to go, but I'm on a path. Just yesterday night, my boyfriend was telling me, and I was a bit surprised because I was like, this is what I usually tell to others. It's not what I need to hear. But he was telling me, you're too harsh with yourself. Like, you've done two mistakes. I was making a banana bread, and then I think I did something else in the kitchen that was wrong. And I was like, oh, I've done this wrong. Now it's not going to turn out well. He's like, it's just a banana bread. Like, you're a very valuable and important person, regardless of how your banana bread turns out. I was like, yeah, that's so true. And I can see it so clearly with other people. But then when it comes to me, I have this general idea of, no, I have a good relationship with myself and that's it. But I have to realize that a relationship is something you cultivate every moment. It's not that you label it as good today and so it's done. It's literally a process that is always happening because we're always there with ourselves. 24 hours a day, all the days of our lives, we are the person that is closest to ourselves and whose voice matters most. This was really cool to discover in my training that the words of other people are not as important as our own words. The words we tell to ourselves shape who we are, and the words that others tell us are filtered through our own voice. I'll give you a practical example. If Alina tells me today, Sarah, I hate your jumper. And if I agree with that and I tell myself, yeah, this jumper is so silly, it's too bright, like I shouldn't have worn it, then I'm absorbing what she said. But if she tells me I don't like your jumper and I say, that's so legitimate, maybe she doesn't like colorful jumpers. I do. And I like my jumper. That ends there. This is a bit of a silly example. It can get much deeper in life, like somebody telling you that you're unprofessional or that you're stupid or that you're unkind. And if you let that voice become your own, then it will go straight into you. But if you hear it as something that another person perceived on your behavior, you have much more power. You can choose to say, I am a kind person that did an unkind action. I realize I did actually an unkind action. Let me fix it. Or let me just accept that it happened. And next time, I'll try to do a kinder action and I'm going to see if I'm successful.
That's so empowering to realize that you are in charge of this relationship you have with yourself, right? And that's all of the things that happen and all of the conversations and all of the relationships you have and all of the things that you experience go through this filter of your own perception of yourself. And this is really where self-love comes in. It's so foundational, which is why we're talking about it and why I've talked about it with so many of my clients already, is that we often have this idea that you already touched upon a little bit, that if we just get to a certain point, or if we do lose the weight, or we do somehow find ourselves to be perfect, then we'll be able to love ourselves, instead of realizing that that is where we should start, right? We should start with loving ourselves. And from there, healthy behavior actually naturally comes to us because we want to take care of things that we love. And that includes ourselves. And this is such a shift. Like, you flip the whole narrative of trying to get somewhere to where are you moving from. And this really changes how you interact with yourself, but also with the world. It's really shifting how you experience yourself. I feel like a lot of stress and anxiety comes from always feeling like you're not good enough. So you're constantly trying to do things well and to make sure you're not offending anybody and everybody likes you, right? This is where so much people pleasing behavior comes from, this feeling of unsafety around other people, which has actually a lot to do with not loving yourself because of what you were sharing. Is that the moment you are not sure if you're good enough, you're constantly gonna kind of try to manage and make sure that other people don't discover that you're actually not good enough because you're thinking that that's the case. But the beautiful thing that happens when you're diving into this like inner work that we're doing is that there is inherently nothing wrong with you. There's nothing you need to do to be good enough. And the more you can be kind and caring and start to really appreciate the person that you are, and that it's very normal and human to fuck up a banana bread, and that doesn't mean anything about your value, your worth, or your personality or your character or whatever, then we can really perceive things so differently because of this new way we're relating to ourselves. And I loved how you were sharing that it's like this dynamic, continuous relationship that we need to build. It's not this like point that we get to like, okay, now I just love myself and from there on everything is just fine. It's not an achievement as much as it is like this relationship in the way we have relationship with our friends or our family or our romantic partner, right? It's like this continuous effort to put in your time, your energy, your kindness, and this sweetness. And I feel like we need to talk about this deeper level because self-love is such a buzzword. And I think it's good that we're talking about it more. People understand like, oh, I need to be more kind. But it is kind of a tricky subject in a way that it is more than just treating yourself to a spa day, which can be very self-loving, right? To recognize you need a break and to invest time, energy, money into doing something nice for yourself. But it's also about so much more than buying things for yourself, or maybe even like, oh, you don't need to go to the gym, like it's all good. And there is this kind of negative movement, I would almost say, that has been born from this idea of self-love that has nothing to do really with love, right? Because if we truly love ourselves, that also means effort, and that means showing up, and that means talking to ourselves in a different way. It means doing the hard things and maybe going to therapy or getting help if you're really struggling. It is a deeper process of truly taking care of you as a person and also really accepting who you are, and that we are all different and we can't fit into one particular mold and then feel like we're going to be perfect and then we can love ourselves, right? It's like, no, you're perfect in your very imperfect way, right? There's no perfection in that sense. And we all have different tastes, different preferences, and that it's actually so beautiful to have these specifics about ourselves. I recently had a client who was sharing that because of our process together and her finding more confidence, more ease within ourselves, finding more body acceptance, realizing how much she has been people pleasing and has been really afraid of other people's judgments. And she had this beautiful moment where she was like, oh, wait, but I can have like a favorite thing, whether that's like a favorite food or like a favorite music. And I think she always just kind of left that open in order to kind of adjust her enthusiasm towards what the other person would prefer, which is such a thing from people pleasing, right? That you want the other person to like you. So I'm going to like all the things you like. And she had this moment of like, no, wait, I'm my own unique person and I get to pick my favorite jumper or my favorite like pasta dish, even if everybody else is like, oh, why do you like that? Right. And that's such an empowering thing to realize.
Beautiful. I love that example. And I see myself falling in that category. Actually, I remember having a moment of lucid consciousness where I was like, it's crazy that I don't know what I like. Not even what my favorite thing is. That's a whole other stage. I was like, I don't even know what I enjoy doing. What do I enjoy like wearing and eating? And in that moment, I went back to this state of my childhood where I was in a holiday home with my family. So aunts, cousins, all of that. And my aunt was like, what would you prefer to eat for lunch? Would you either have like this, or this? And I was like, for me, it's the same. And she was like, such a good girl. For you, it's all the same. And so you can like make other people happy. And then it clicked. I was like, yeah, if I have no preference at all, other people are going to be happy because like they can get their way. And I was like that for a long time. And my boyfriend helped me a lot on that journey of like, what do you want to eat tonight? No, you. What do you want to eat tonight? And I'm like, thinking that you at this moment should be eating this and this. No, what do you want to eat tonight? So it is a process. And it's so nice that you mentioned it. And after our last episode or the one before, and I remember somebody told me via message that they had taken like the time to go buy themselves a cake that they really liked. And it was such a nice experience. And I wanted to share that because it's so important that we can have a place where we discuss ideas and then these ideas turn into reality. That's like such a beautiful moment. And so today I thought maybe we can go a little bit more practical in her own experiences and what were the tangible steps that we saw ourselves taking or we consciously took in order to build this relationship with ourselves. And one thing I wanted to mention, because it's very important when we're discussing self-love, is to set some boundaries and be able to say no to other people in a way that is very in line with how we feel inside and also feels respectful and kind. I had a no associated with disrespecting others, being arrogant, being self-centered, just inflicting pain upon others. But that was my personal narrative. And it was so liberating when I discovered that we all have our own version of reality and that's our version and it will never coincide with the version of reality of somebody else. So the fact that we want to make everybody's reality perfect is already something we'll never achieve. And I was trying to influence how other people were feeling because I wanted to make people feel good. I think that is a big part of my nature. That's why I choose this job. I love to share deeply with people and ultimately to see people feeling good. But I'm not the one that makes them feel good. They are doing all of that for themselves. And especially where I'm not the therapist, it took me a long time to accept that I have no power on how people are perceiving me in their lives. I can be myself, If they like to perceive me in a beautiful way, that's a gift that they do to me for sure. If they like to perceive me in a way that is not nice, maybe like an egoistic person that says no a lot, that's their reality. And I respect that and I can still love them. But it doesn't mean that I need to change it necessarily. I can live with some people on this planet thinking I'm an egoist or I'm not beautiful or um, I don't know, something negative. I can still live with that because it's their reality. It's not mine.
And that's so beautiful because I remember so clearly on this journey towards really a loving relationship with myself and therefore letting go of people pleasing, right? Because I think if you truly love yourself, you need to start setting these boundaries and protecting yourself from things you don't want to do, right? And to even understand what it is you want to do, because your story is so relatable, Sarah. I remember being on a retreat and realizing my own people pleasing tendencies. And I had no idea who I even was. Like, I had this really like this crisis where it was like, if I don't do any of the things I do for other people in any sort of way, or to change the perception of people, like of me, what do I even want to do? Like, on a big scale, like I had no idea what to do, what I liked. And I had the exact same story with my partner where he was like, so what do you want to do? Or what do you want to eat? And I was like, whatever you want. And it's like, no, you can pick. And I was like, okay, but I really don't know. Like, I had been pleasing people for so long and just going with whatever they wanted to do that I literally also didn't know what I liked. So it wasn't even that I wasn't able to admit what I really wanted, which sometimes also happens, right? You kind of know what you want, but you're like, whatever, we can do what is nice for everybody. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to feel unsafe. I don't want to own up to my own preference, which is, first of all, we really understand if you're at this place, in this place. We so understand how scary this can feel. And this has been a process of years, right, that we're talking about. So this is also not just a switch you can flip and then here you are on the other side, feeling brave, confident, and in love with yourself. um, but I really also very often had no idea. Literally, it was just a blank of what I then would want. So it is really this process of rediscovering what you like and trying different things out and feeling brave enough to indeed have a preference. But I really wanted to touch upon how scary it is to fully say no to other people and to therefore, like, I remember being very direct at some point also with my family. If we're talking about expectations around family, I think we all have these expectations. And my mom was organizing this brunch, and generally you would just go, right? Unless you're sick or are out of the country, you're supposed to be there. And it's not like my parents are super forceful in that way, but it's just like a lot of the social expectations we have. And I think we all experience, there's just this expectation of showing up. And I think whenever we start to realize that we're people pleasing, we've kind of switched to the other side for a little bit where we become kind of rude. And we have this idea of like, no, I'm not going to please anybody. I'm going to only choose myself. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I don't care if it sucks for you. I'm just going to do me. Which I think is normal. And it's just good to kind of recognize that that is also not really the place you want to end up with. Like, it's good to find your own way of navigating these expectations. And if you love other people around you, it's also okay to, of course, be flexible sometimes or adjust the things you want to do. It's not about pushing always for everything you want, but it is about owning at least what you would prefer, right? So that other people can also be adjusted to what you want, which I feel like for me was a very scary an uncomfortable place to be in, that other people would like be less comfortable because of my preference, right? Because that was like the ultimate thing I wanted to avoid, is to be somehow some sort of burden and have people not like me as much. While it's really self-loving to be receiving, right? To receive people's uncomfort sometimes because they're making an effort for you, because maybe they are not in the mood to cook, but they're going to cook something beautiful for you anyways, or because they're going to pick you up somewhere, even though it would have been nice to just stay at home, and that it's okay to receive. And I think we can only start to receive if we feel worthy of receiving, right? Whether it's our own love or other people's love, we can only truly receive that, as you were sharing, based on these beliefs you have. You can only receive it if you truly think you are worthy. And I'm wondering, Sarah, if you have any thoughts on how to get there, right? If people are listening to this conversation and they're like, okay, yes, I definitely recognize some of these expectations. Maybe they're social, maybe they're from myself. I have this idea of wanting to be perfect in a certain way. I'm kind of people pleasing. I am indeed not always sure what I want. It does feel more comfortable to kind of adjust my own needs to others instead of honoring my own needs, which I think is the definition also of being loving towards yourself, right? Having these boundaries, really like being there for yourself, nurturing yourself. And they get all of that. But there's just not this feeling of like, okay, I do love myself. I think this is where maybe the subconscious also comes in.
For sure. Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a beautiful question. And when there is a lack of love for ourselves, it comes from a big disconnect that has been going on between who we are and the version of us in the past that maybe went through some difficult times. And in these difficulties, as Gabor Mate says, the trauma is not really the event, but it's the pain that it's causing inside of you. It's the isolation, the feeling of being alone, of being different, of being undeserving that it creates within you. So everybody, because we're humans, has shared these feelings. And so it's not about healing something that happened in the past in terms of the traumatic event that made you feel alone or unlovable or undeserving. But it's taking care of these emotions as if they were present right this moment, because that's a bit what our subconscious is replaying every day. Since that moment happened till the day of today, it's been like this constant disc that has been playing in our brain of, I'm not lovable, I'm alone, nobody will understand me, I am not worthy of love. And when there is this disc playing, it's very hard to be like, but today I choose self-love. I mean, for sure we have free choice, and that's a beautiful thing and something that definitely in the long run can make us change that disc, can make us just change our lives really. But we need to take that disc that is playing in our subconscious mind out to then replace it with a new disc, because the subconscious mind can't hold opposite beliefs. It's either thinking that you're lovable or that you're unlovable. There's no gray area there. And so if you're even a little bit in doubt of, am I unlovable? It means you're running on the program of I'm unlovable. And to take that disc away, it's very useful to go back to what were you feeling as a child? What is that lingering sensation? To admit it, because it's present in us even today, as I was saying. So admit, yeah, probably there's a part of me that right this moment is feeling less than or is feeling unlovable because of this or this reason. The more we make it tangible, concrete, because in third grade I was dressing different from all the other kids, hence I felt different, we start realizing that's bullshit. I was dressing different because my parents had no money to put me the right clothes. Doesn't mean that I was inherently different. I just had different clothes, but I was just like all the other kids in the class. I was a bright little fellow. And then we can change that narrative and sort of put the right pieces in place of recognizing that when we were children or when we were a previous version of ourselves, that breakup or that boyfriend or that teacher might have said something that completely destroyed us. But if somebody would tell it to us today, maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Or maybe we can understand why it created pain, but we can also recover from that pain because the body is amazing. Just try to cut yourself. You will see that your skin heals. And the same way, our psychological side, because these are traumas are like some psychological wounds, want to heal during time. The only way we don't allow them to heal is that we're so caught up with this narrative that we replay it for ourselves and we keep seeing it. Example, I keep telling myself, I'm unlovable. And every time a boyfriend rejects me, I'm like, you see, of course, I don't deserve this relationship. I don't deserve this love. When we hear these words, if somebody recognizes themselves, this is already you having the power to be like, I want to stop it. It's not that you're unlovable. Maybe you just met with the person that is incompatible with you or doesn't have the emotional capacity to love you. Because if we don't love ourselves, it's very hard to love other people. And that's why many times relationships go a bit wrong because there's a scarcity of love because we're not reconnected with ourselves. When we feel guilt, we're not connected with ourselves and we're not feeling self-love. We're running on the other disc. Otherwise, there's no guilt. There's no feeling of inadequacy if we drop an egg in the kitchen or if we make the wrong banana bread. It can even be quite funny and amusing sometimes to make mistakes if we feel that we are untouchable, as in our worth is not dependent upon these little things. And if we give ourselves the opportunity to make mistakes, even when we are in a relationship with somebody, it doesn't have to be a love relationship. It can be also a work relationship. You told the wrong thing to your colleague or you've done the wrong thing. And know that you're not less of a person because of what you've done. It's like when educating kids. I'm not a mom yet, but when I'll be a mom, something that I will really pay attention to is never saying to my kid, you're a bad person because you've done this, or, oh, you're such a naughty kid. Instead of saying you're a naughty kid, you've done this objective thing of throwing flour around the whole house. And that act is a pretty unresponsible. The act was unacceptable, but it's not the person that is unkind or it's not the kid that is a bad kid. There's no bad kid, like there's no bad adult, I think. There's just adults that make the wrong choices repeatedly and make choices out of their wounds, their open wounds.
Beautiful. Yes, I think it's so good to highlight this difference between messing up and like being a mess, right? Or like being wrong or doing something wrong. And I think this is where a lot of the perfectionism and people pleasing and just anxiety and stress and fear comes from, is this idea that we're only going to be safe, we're only going to be loved, we're only worthy of love if we always do everything right and we always give everything 100% and everything is always like very specifically tuned into what the other person is expecting, but that it's okay and safe and normal to, as adults, have like messy, wrong, bad decisions, make mistakes, not be perfect, not meet other people's expectations, and that actually other adults are responsible for their own emotions about that. I think that was such a big thing I needed to learn in letting go of this people pleasing, that even if I do say no and I do therefore not meet somebody else's expectation, that is actually okay. The other person is the one responsible for handling the disappointment, but it's up to them to be with that and to see like, okay, yeah, I would have loved to spend time with Elina, but today she can't or she won't, and that's okay. And that it is not up to us to facilitate this kind of general happiness that you were talking about to everybody we can possibly meet, and also do this like very undiscriminatingly, right? Like to everybody we meet, we need to be this nice person. And I think it's Terry Cole, she wrote also the book Boundary Boss, and she's like a big person talking about self-love and also in relationship. But she talks about VIPs, as in the very important persons in your life, and to also be kind of clear on which people are you indeed going to give your energy, your time, your effort, your availability, and to which people not, like who is not important. I think when you're so used to being a people pleaser, there's, I at least really recognize that I would want to please everyone. And there was like no distinction between my family, my best friends, my partner, and like random people I just met and like acquaintances that not even cared about me, but I would need to be perfect for them. Right. And I think it is really nice to have these boundaries and to, it's such a self-loving thing, right? To realize you don't have to be perfect and that actually the people who love you for that, for who you are, with all your beauty and also the more challenging things, are the people also worthy of your time and attention. And I think for me, it was such a realization. I think I was on this work trip and there were all these different expectations from all kind of important people that I wanted to please. And there was just no way I could like meet all their expectations together because their expectations didn't match. And I had this like moment where I was like, wait a minute, this actually doesn't work. Like this literally cannot happen. And therefore, I had to sit with the uncomfort of at least letting down a couple of people that I actually really wanted to be happy with me. And it was really powerful to realize, okay, I really need to choose myself and do what I think is right. And also really feel that whatever I do, this is just one situation in like such a big life, right? It's not this crazy important thing. Like we make small things and small mistakes and small comments we make or small comments other people make towards us. We make them huge sometimes, even though it's just a moment in time and not everything has to do with you as well. Right? And it's really loving to understand that even if you are indeed rude, that doesn't mean you're a rude person, right? You can make silly mistakes, and also other people can be in a bad mood and say wrong things. Doesn't mean that that defines you as a person when you receive it.
Exactly. I think it's so socially tricky nowadays to navigate. How do you say no to somebody else without hurting their feelings or without having to come up with this crazy excuse that your house is on fire and your car is just being destroyed and you have nowhere to get to their place. And then sometimes I ended up going to these events and resenting myself so much for like having sort of given away my time and not wanting to and just having done it to please someone. And that's where I knew I was changing because I would just act out of guilt and kind of numb my feelings. But when I was feeling so like enraged with myself of you shouldn't have said yes, you shouldn't have been there, something in me started changing and I started acting on it and saying more no's, saying I don't want to spend Saturday morning doing this thing, or I don't want to come to this lunch. I really want to spend time in my own house doing these other things. I feel I always have to bring a reason of why, and to be truthful with that reason is my intention now and sort of my challenge. But already having the no part done, I feel so much better. I spend time with the people that I really value and love. And the exchanges I have with people are so valuable because there's less of them. I would rather spend one beautiful evening with my family and have deep, meaningful conversations because that happens once a month, then feel obliged to do it every single week. You want to be true to yourself. You want to spend time doing things that you love. You don't want to show up to their place resenting them for having invited you. And when it happens to me, when I invite a friend over and this friend might tell me, and with Alina, this has happened in the past where we clearly tell each other, today I don't feel like showing up. I don't feel like coming to our joint session, or I don't feel like recording. I'm so happy that they could express to me their deepest feelings. I feel so honored as their friends to be trusted with honoring how they're feeling and not making my happiness depend on whether they're there or not. So I think the thing we can do to start this movement of freeing people from expectations is just when we receive a no or somebody cancels on us, instead of feeling unloved and not valuable and not respected, we can be like, I'm glad that this person prioritized what they really want to do versus coming to do me a favor, because I can have a great time also doing something else. And of course, there's a bit of a boundary to that. If we're speaking about a set work appointment, it is important, I believe, to make these deadlines. We can't just mail our boss today. I felt like looking out of the window, I'm not going to come. Like, that is not obviously the extreme I'm talking about. And people might have prepared this huge lunch. So instead of telling them 2 hours before I can't come, it's more respectful to do it in advance. So for sure, there are some measures that we can adopt to make sure we're respecting also the person that has invited us. But an invite is not, you have to come. And actually, there's this really interesting book that said you see what kind of relationship you have with a person based on when you ask them something. Is it a question or is it a request? If it's an open question and you receive a no, you should be fine with it. If it's a request and you're not in a very balanced and open relationship with this person, you're a bit of in a manipulative relationship with this person and they tell you no, well, then your manipulation has a bit failed. And so you will feel like, no, they can't say no. Let me convince you. I wanted to ask you, Elena, if you have a personal strategy or some tips that you could give on how to handle this situation where you really don't want to do something, but you also don't want to hurt the other person, but you also don't want to hurt yourself.
Yes, I think it's really beautiful how you were saying that the more comfortable you are with a person, like the better the relationship, the more comfortable I usually feel about being myself, about being open, about my needs. So I think that's just in general a good thing to pay attention to, like how comfortable are you with this person? And I love those relationships with ours, for example, that we can usually like, sorry, I'm not having the best day or whatever. And it's just honest and it's vulnerable. But I also do want to point out that, of course, this vulnerability, which is definitely a strategy, comes from confidence. You have to feel confident enough to be vulnerable, because when we're still trying to be perfect in a way and we want to people please, vulnerability is a very scary place, but it is actually where connection happens. And you can be the one to change the dynamic of a relationship by shifting it yourself. Like, we're always in this dance with people, and the moment, like maybe there was like a first moment with you and me, Sarah, where I or you were like, sorry, I don't feel good. I'm not in the mood for this. And then the other person is like, oh, wait, we can be honest here about like human feelings and needs. So you kind of break the ice in that way. So I would say that being really open and being brave about it does generally work out really well. People respond well to vulnerability, generally speaking. But even if they don't, which I think you might have a story to share, Sarah, but that really comes down to loving yourself and being okay with being uncomfortable. Like, it took me a long time to sit with my feelings when I would disappoint somebody, but still doing it. So it's a bit of a cheesy one, perhaps, but really staying true to yourself and seeing how other people are responsible for their own feelings, for their thoughts, for how they react. Even if you do people please, you can still not control how other people will respond to that either. Like, you're never going to be able to please everyone and try to be perfect. It's not a thing. So instead, really put all that energy and effort and admiration and just all this beautiful energy that you want to send towards other people, to send it towards yourself. Because I feel like we're always so understanding towards other people. It's so easy to love other people and just really see like, oh, of course you're tired, no worries. like, it's all good. I love you anyways. But towards ourselves, somehow, it's like a crime to do anything slightly less than perfect and less than what is expected. So to really recognize that and that it's just learned behavior and it's something we can stop doing, and really maybe sitting with yourself, I would say was my first step of like, okay, it is going to be uncomfortable. So not waiting until you will feel ready for it necessarily, but the moment you start feeling, I really don't want to do something, it's the most loving thing you can do is to speak up for yourself, to set these boundaries. Also, when you are feeling super overwhelmed at work or you're really just feeling burned out, to be honest, right? But instead of being like, okay, bye, and see you never again, which you could do, right? It's an option, it has consequences, like have a conversation with your employer about like, hey, I've been really feeling pressured. I don't feel good. I need a break. What can we do? Right? Having an open conversation about this can be so helpful. And it also shows the quality of the relationship pretty quickly. Like if somebody is open to take care of you and like have a conversation about, okay, what is possible or what can we do to make both of us comfortable, I think it's such a good sign. But if somebody is just going to shame you, guilt you, pressure you into doing what they want, instead of being like, okay, sorry, I'm just going to please you again to make sure there's no conflict, be like, okay, wait, this isn't a very healthy situation to be in. Let me reconsider if I even want this person or this job in my life, if this is going to be the reaction to me setting boundaries. And of course, that doesn't mean that if you have been people pleasing for 10 years and you set a boundary and people are like, whoa, where did that come from? To all of a sudden be like, okay, bye, you're all gone from my life. Because you need to give people some time also to adjust to you not being like completely flexible in everything. That takes some time for other people to get used to as well. But to really understand, like, okay, what are the things I need to take care of myself, which is the level of self-love that we're talking about, right? Is really creating a life that feels good, that feels safe, that is peaceful, that you know you have your own back instead of needing to kind of hope others will have your back because you're just putting everything you have out there, hoping you'll get it back. And you're just trying everything you can to not receive any judgment instead of knowing that you're worthy anyway. And that if there is judgment, it says more about them than it says about you. And I think all of these little things really contribute to a better relationship with yourself, where you are attentive, where you do listen to your own needs. Like, I think we talked about this before, but really seeing it as a relationship helps so much. Of like, you need to spend time with yourself. You need alone time. You need to listen to your own thoughts. You need space for your emotions. You need to do things that you enjoy. I feel like so many people are just so serious all the time, right? And especially in this whole self-development, spiritual growth, and like space, there's so much pressure to improve, to be your best self, to be successful, to be fit, to be all these things. And it's like, can we make space to just play and to just be and to listen to what you really just want to do on a day instead of all the expectations you put on yourself or all the expectations somebody else put on you, and to really be kind to yourself whenever people are not responding well to your preference, instead of shaming yourself for being loud or taking up space or having a preference, being like, no, it's okay to not want to do this. Or it's okay to not, like, there are so many small things. I feel like if you're maybe invited to drink coffee somewhere and we're like, oh, do you want a coffee? But maybe you just want a tea. And instead of being like, okay, yes, thank you for the coffee, being like, hey, do you also have tea? And also to trust that generally speaking, people like if people are clear about what they need.
Yeah.
I think we can all recognize this, that it's not actually really nice to have somebody around who is always like, oh, whatever you want. It's nice if you have somebody who is visiting you to be like, oh, hey, do you have an extra towel? And just be able to give it to them, right? Instead of them feeling bad about only having one or whatever practical thing is, right? It's often these small things that we're afraid to ask, but actually build relationship and build connection if we're daring to just be vulnerable and take up space and really just be human, just say what we want to do or not want to do.
I love that. I'm going to just apply it to the workspace for a second in my reasoning, because I think this is super important for people that are under a lot of pressure from work. And I know many of them. And many times we say, first work, that's my priority, and then taking care of my downtime because, that's a bit of a luxury just to do nothing and listen to your thoughts. And I would reverse that. I would put, first of all, you, whatever you need in order to cultivate that relationship with yourself and get yourself going as a human being, because you are the one working. You are the one that wants to hopefully enjoy life. So if there's not you before, there's no work, there's no salary, there's no relationship that is more important than how are you feeling and what's your relationship with yourself. Are you like this little mat that lies underneath all the other people at work? Are you always saying yes to your boss? Are you afraid of your boss? That's their way of living. And I don't think everybody needs to become independent or just quit their job. But I know, because I've been there in the situation where I was terrified of my boss. It's no way of living. You're constantly in a fight or flight mode. You're ruining the time that you have on this earth because you think that once you have a successful job, the rest of your life will just fall into place, but it's never going to happen. Let's be honest. You need to be happy now. So the best thing that you can do following what we've said at work is to make sure you're communicating your needs. And a workplace usually feels like a place where it's great to suppress your needs. And the more you suppress them, the more successful you are. But I have found that I saw other people and I heard stories of people that confirm this and that are working in the corporate world, that when you state your own boundaries in terms of this project will take me this number of hours or of days, I'm under a lot of pressure. I need a bit of help. This is an overload for me. What can you, as my manager, do to help me? These people are seen as very confident people because you do need a lot of confidence to do that and are actually more respected than the ones that are saying yes. And then they're working until 1 a.m. And then the day after is rinse repeat because they don't have that confidence of saying, I can't do this, or they're too afraid to get fired. And let's be honest, if you get fired from a job that has you working until 1 a.m. and you scared in fight or flight mode every single day, maybe that's even a blessing. So it's really you first, then comes the job, then comes like enjoyment in life.
Yeah, I think it's such a good point to also touch upon rest and allowing yourself to just do fun things, to not be kind of focused on all the shoots that you need to do and all the pressure and all the expectations, and first fulfill your expectations and then allow yourself to enjoy, to allow yourself to rest, to feel like you're good enough, to feel like you've been productive, but to, again, what you're saying, put yourself first, and from there you can create. And it's such a shift in how you experience every day, right? Because every day we're making thousands of tiny decisions that all come from this place. And it's either because we're not good enough yet, or it's because we're inherently good enough, and everything we choose comes from this place of respect towards ourselves and of tuning in to what we truly find important. And this, of course, really, 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 in this conversation, we need to say that how you speak to yourself is one of the most important things here. It's like, how are you having these conversations about what happens or what you still need to do, or about your belly, or about your work, or about um, some sort of dating situation or whatever somebody else said. Like, are you just taking it in? Are you shaming yourself? Are you saying you need to do better? Is there always this constant like judgment and just abuse going on in your head? Or are you allowing yourself this grace of, as Sarah beautifully said, like not being perfect in baking or just making mistakes or having a day where you wanted to do different things, but you just didn't meet your own expectations. And also that is fine, right? Like we don't have to constantly expect ourselves to be robots. And maybe one day you plan to do all these productive things, but you're super tired. The most loving thing you can do is to just listen to your need for rest. And sometimes it's the opposite, right? Sometimes the most loving thing is getting all these things out of the way that are really important, that are maybe going to grow your business, or getting yourself out there because there's a relationship you really want, or having the tough conversation with your partner to get your needs met is the most loving thing to do. Or indeed having that conversation with your boss of like, hey, this is not okay for me, or I want to do something different. I don't like what I'm doing here. Are there more opportunities? And to really speak up for yourself and really see how you're speaking towards yourself is so important. And I feel like the more you learn how to love yourself and truly like feel the compassion and ease and peace that comes with that, the easier it becomes to also feel compassion and feel space for other people. Like this is something my clients are sometimes a bit like worried about, or they ask about, like, sorry for being annoying, of like putting all my things on your plate, and what you must think of me because of all this shit that is going on in my head and all these emotions every week. And it's like, no, that's because you have those judgments about that. But I actually don't feel that. It's not that I'm just pretending to not have them. They're not there. Like I actually feel care and compassion and kindness towards you because I feel that for myself. So you really get into this different space with yourself, but automatically with others as well. And I also want to invite people to really see who in your life are supporting you choosing you, and who are supporting you in feeling safe. I think we need people around us that show us what real love is. And of course, it starts with ourselves, but I do feel we also heal a lot in relationships, whether it's a romantic relationship or a friendship. It's so healing to be seen and be accepted for what people see. And this is something I talk about a lot with my clients, is if you are not vulnerable and you do not share yourself and you're trying to constantly put up this image, you're basically playing this part of the person you're supposed to be according to yourself and your own analyzing of life, is even if people do love you and they're like, oh my God, she's amazing, look at her, they're loving the theater, the picture that you created. And there's such a sadness in that everybody will always feel. You can feel that people are just loving the facade and not the real you. But how can they if they've never met you, right? Like if you don't share yourself, if you're not vulnerable, if you're not showing up, if you're not daring to be there, then you can also not heal those parts, because nobody can ever love it because it's just unavailable. It's invisible. So I feel like there's such a power in being around people, of course, that make you feel safe enough to be vulnerable, but also then daring a little bit to be yourself a bit more. And that all really starts with a more supportive talk in your head about yourself and being your own cheerleader first.
Beautiful. I think that was such a beautiful way, Lina, to wrap up this episode. I feel so lucky to share this space with you and with all of you. I'm going to announce the title of our next episode and a bit the content of it. We're going to look at how AI can or cannot replace us, so physical therapists, when it comes to mental health and also eating. We're going to actually have a hands-on test. We're going to give a personal issue to ChatGPT or another form of AI, so that we see how are we going to get guided or advised by the artificial intelligence and how to proceed in our lives. And then we're also going to test the responses that it gives to questions that often people ask, because now it's become a trend to use AI and see if it can replace your therapist. We're going to give you the results of our inquiry in our next episode. And thank you so much for being here today. Do share this episode or any other episode with other people that might need or like or want to hear our conversations.
Yes. Thank you for this beautiful conversation again, Sarah. And yes, I really encourage everybody to also send us questions if there's anything you're curious about or any topic you would like us to talk more about, or even just specify a little bit more what we were talking about in one of these episodes. We're really happy to dive into things more specifically or touch upon all sorts of topics that maybe we haven't thought about yet. We really want to create this sense of community, really involve you. And yeah, excited to dive into AI next.
Me too. See you very soon.